The voice of the American woman Loretta Lynn wasn't just a country music legend, she was a cultural revolutionary. Born into poverty in rural Kentucky, she rose to become one of the most influential and groundbreaking artists in American music history. With her raw, powerful voice and unflinching lyrics, Lynn gave voice to the lives of working-class women, writing about love, heartbreak, motherhood, infidelity, birth control, and independence with a boldness that shattered taboos in a industry. Known as the Queen of Country Music, Loretta Lynn broke barriers not with protests or speeches but with songs. She sang about real life, about coal dust, childbirth, loneliness, and resilience in a way no woman had before. Her music wasn't polished or glamorous. It was honest, gritty, and deeply human. Over a career spanning 6 decades, she earned countless awards, sold millions of records, and inspired generations of artists from Dolly Parton and Tammy Wynette to Reba McEntire, Miranda Lambert, and Casey Musgraves. But more than her accolades, it was her authenticity that made her immortal. This is the story of Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter who became a voice for millions. My roots in Butcher Hollow, a childhood forged in poverty. Loretta Webb was born on April 14, 1935, in Butcher Hollow, often spelled Butcher Holler, a tiny, isolated coal mining community in eastern Kentucky. She was the second of 8 children born to Clara Marie Clary and Melvin Theodore Ted Webb. Life was harsh. The family lived in a two-room log cabin with no electricity, running water, or indoor plumbing. Money was so scarce that the children often wore clothes made from flour sacks. Ted Webb worked in the coal mines, but his earnings barely kept the family fed. Despite the hardship, music was a constant. The family sang hymns and folk songs around the radio or harmonica. Loretta learned to sing early, absorbing the sounds of country legends like Roy Acuff, the Carter Family, and Ernest Tubb. She later said, "We didn't have much, but we had love and we had music." At 13, she married Oliver Doolittle Lynn, a 22-year-old man she called Mooney or Doo. Though the marriage was controversial, she was still a child by modern standards. It was also a lifeline. Doo recognized her talent early and bought her first guitar, encouraging her to sing. In 1950, the couple moved to Custer, Washington, where Doo worked in logging. Loretta began singing at local honky-tonks and community events, slowly building a following. 3. The breakthrough from honky-tonk to Nashville. Doo Lynn was determined to make his wife a star. He relentlessly promoted her, driving her to gigs, booking radio appearances, and even changing her name to Loretta Lynn, a more marketable stage name. In 1960, she released her first single, "I'm a Honky-Tonk Girl," on the Small Zero Records label, with Doo driving her from station to station. She personally promoted the record. It climbed to number 14 on the Billboard country charts, catching the attention of Don Grady, a talent scout for Decca Records. She signed with Decca in 1961 and began working with producer Owen Bradley, who had also shaped the careers of Patsy Cline and Brenda Lee. Her early hits, Success 1962 and Happy Birthday 1963, established her as a rising star. But it was Don't Come Home, A Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind 1966 that made her a household name. The song, co-written by Loretta and her sister Peggy Sue, was a bold statement, a wife refusing to accept her husband's drunken neglect. It was one of the first country songs to portray a woman standing up for herself, and it became her first #1 hit for the songwriter. A voice for women, Loretta Lynn didn't just sing songs, she wrote them, and in doing so, she changed the face of country music. She wrote from experience about marriage, motherhood, and the struggles of being a woman in a man's world. Her lyrics were direct, unapologetic, and often controversial. The Pill 1975, perhaps her most controversial song. The Pill celebrated the liberation women felt with access to birth control. The world keeps getting better and better, all the time, thanks to modern medicine and the friendly little pill. At a time when reproductive rights were hotly debated, the song was banned by many radio stations. But it became a feminist anthem, praised for its honesty and courage. Rated X 1972, a stark look at the stigma divorced women faced. Once you're divorced and you're living alone, you're rated X and you're known as a tramp. It exposed the double standards of society with quiet fury. Wings Upon Your Horns 1970, mother's warning to her daughter about losing her innocence too soon. Save your wings upon your horns until you find a man who really loves you. It was tender, protective, and deeply personal. Lynn didn't write to shock. She wrote to tell the truth about love, loss, and the realities of being a woman in mid-century America. The Grand Ole Opry and the country music establishment. In 1962, Loretta Lynn became a member of the Grand Ole Opry, country music's most prestigious stage. She was only the 3rd woman ever to be inducted at the time, but even there she faced resistance. Some male performers and executives saw her songs as too bold, too confrontational. They wanted women to sing about love and heartbreak, not about birth control or domestic conflict. But Lynn refused to back down. She became a fixture on the Opry, performing for decades with warmth, humor, and power. Fans adored her for her down-to-earth style, her signature fringe and rhinestone gowns, and her unmistakable voice, clear, strong, and full of emotion. She also became close friends with Patsy Cline, who mentored her in the early 1960s. Loretta later said, "Patsy taught me that a woman could be tough and still be feminine." After Patsy's death in 1963, Loretta carried on her legacy, becoming one of the leading female voices in country music. VY. The duo years, Loretta and Conway in 1967. Loretta began a long and successful collaboration with Conway Twitty, one of country music's most beloved male vocalists. Their voices blended perfectly, hers bright and bold, his deep and smooth. They released 13 studio albums together and scored 5 #1 hits, including After the Fire Is Gone 1971, a duet about two lonely people falling in love, which won a Grammy, Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man 1973, a playful, steamy hit that showcased their chemistry. As Soon as I Hang Up the Phone 1974, a humorous duet about a couple arguing on the phone. Their partnership was strictly professional. Whitty was married, and Loretta was devoted to Dubit. Their onstage chemistry was electric. They toured together for years, bringing joy to millions. VII. The film, Coal Miner's Daughter 1980. The 1980 biopic Coal Miner's Daughter, based on Loretta's 1976 autobiography, brought her story to a global audience, starring Sissy Spacek as Loretta. The film was a critical and commercial triumph. Won 7 Academy Award nominations. Spacek won Best Actress, won Golden Globes, BAFTS, and widespread acclaim. The film captured the essence of Loretta's journey from poverty in Kentucky to stardom in Nashville with honesty, humor, and heart. Loretta served as a consultant and was deeply moved by Spacek's performance. She said, "She didn't just play me, she became me." The movie introduced her music to a new generation and solidified her status as an American icon. VII. The later career, resilience and reinvention. Loretta Lynn's career spanned over 6 decades, a rare feat in any genre. She continued to record and tour into her 80s. In 2004, she released Van Leer, Rose, produced by Jack White of the White Stripes. The album was a critical sensation, winning a Grammy for Best Country Album and introducing her to indie rock audiences. Tracks like Portland, Oregon and Family Tree showcased her enduring talent and willingness to evolve. Even after health struggles, including a stroke in 2017 and hip surgery, she returned to the stage when possible, always with the same fiery spirit. The legacy. Why Loretta Lynn matters: because truth is timeless, because women's stories deserve to be told, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Loretta Lynn mattered because she spoke for the voiceless, the housewife, the mother, the working woman. She didn't glorify poverty. She didn't romanticize marriage. She just told the truth. Her influence is everywhere. Dolly Parton, a lifelong friend and rival, called her the most influential woman in country music. Reba McEntire, Miranda Lambert, and Carrie Underwood cite her as a role model. Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris carry on her tradition of bold, honest songwriting. In 1988, she became the first woman to receive the Country Music Association's Entertainer of the Year award. In 2001, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In 2010, she received the Kennedy Center Honors. In 2013, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. The final years. A life well lived. Loretta Lynn died on October 4, 2022, at the age of 90, at her home on her ranch in Carter County, Tennessee. The country music world mourned. Tributes poured in from Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, Garth Brooks, and President Joe Biden, who said Loretta Lynn's music reflected the life of the woman. She was strong, resilient, and fiercely authentic. Her funeral was a private family affair, but fans held memorials across the country, playing her music in bars, back porches, and churches. She was buried next to Doolin at Doolittle Memorial Park in Van Leer, Kentucky. The final word. The woman who sang the truth. Loretta Lynn didn't just sing songs. She lived them. She was the coal miner's daughter who became a queen, the mother of 6 who balanced family and fame, the wife who stayed with a flawed man out of love, the artist who never stopped fighting for her voice, and in doing so, she gave voice to millions. So play Coal Miner's Daughter. Turn it up loud. Close your eyes and let Loretta Lynn remind you don't have to be rich to be great. ****. The voice. Anatomy of a legend. Loretta Lynn's voice was not classically polished. It wasn't smooth or ethereal, but it was real clear, strong, and full of grit, like a mountain stream cutting through stone. Her vocal style was shaped by her Appalachian roots, direct, unembellished, and emotionally honest. She didn't rely on vibrato or dramatic runs. She sang with intention, letting the lyrics carry the weight. Listen to Don't Come Home a Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind. The way she delivers the line, "I've done my cryin' and my beggin'," not with anger but with quiet finality, makes it devastating. She doesn't shout, she decides. And in that moment she redefines the role of the countrywoman. Not a victim but a person with boundaries. Or you ain't woman enough to take my man. 1966, a song that flips the script on the other woman trope. Instead of weeping, Loretta warns the rival, "You ain't woman enough to take my man from me." She sings it with confidence, not spite, a woman secure in her worth. Her phrasing was deliberate. She would pause mid-line to let her truth sink in, drop her voice to a near whisper for intimacy. Let her voice crack not from weakness, but from truth. This wasn't singing, it was storytelling. And in a genre built on narrative. That was everything: the image, rhinestones, fringe, and the look of defiance. Loretta Lynn didn't just sing like a rebel, she looked like one. Her signature stage wear, fringed gowns covered in rhinestones, often designed by her sister Peggy Sue, was more than glamour. It was armor. In an era when female country stars wore modest dresses and cowboy hats, Loretta arrived in shimmering sequined creations that caught the light in the eye. She looked like a star because she was one. But the look was also symbolic. The rhinestones were a rejection of poverty. She grew up in a cabin with no electricity. Now, she sparkled under stage lights, a living testament to how far she'd come. She once said, "I wear rhinestones because I can, because I earned them." Her style influenced generations. Dolly Parton embraced glamour with even greater flair. Reba McEntire and Carrie Underwood carried on the tradition of the country diva. Casey Musgraves and Mickey Guyton blend sparkle with substance. Loretta proved that a woman could be beautiful and strong, glamorous and grounded. The influence on women in country music. Loretta Lynn didn't just open doors for women in country music, she kicked them down. Before her, female artists were often relegated to singing about heartbreak, longing, and waiting. Loretta sang about autonomy, refusing a drunk husband's advance in sexuality, celebrating birth control, resilience, surviving hardship with dignity, motherhood with honesty, not sentimentality. She was the first major female country artist to write her own songs about her own life on her own terms. Her impact is immeasurable. Dolly Parton, her close friend and friendly rival, said, "Loretta showed me that a woman could write her own songs and run her own career." Tammy Wynette admired her boldness. Reba McEntire called her the blueprint for the modern country woman. Miranda Lambert has covered "You Ain't Woman Enough" and cited Loretta as a feminist pioneer. Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris continue her legacy of lyrical honesty. Loretta didn't just sing for women, she sang as a woman, unapologetically, authentically, powerfully. The Grand Ole Opry, a lifelong stage. Loretta Lynn's relationship with the Grand Ole Opry was one of the longest and most cherished in its history. She joined in 1962 and performed there hundreds of times over 6 decades. Even in her 80s, she made appearances, often to thunderous applause. The Opry was more than a stage, it was home. She once said, "The Opry is where I learned to be me, where I found my voice." She also used the platform to support other women, inviting younger female artists to join her on stage and advocating for more airtime for female performers. In 2017, at age 85, she returned to the Opry after recovering from a stroke, singing "Coal Miner's Daughter" to a standing ovation. It was a moment of triumph for a woman who refused to be silenced. The family, love, loss, and loyalty. Loretta Lynn's life was deeply rooted in family. She married Oliver Doolittle Lynn at 15. And though their marriage was turbulent, marked by his infidelity, drinking, and temper, they stayed together for over 47 years, until his death in 1996. They had 6 children. Betty Sue Jack Benny died in a drowning accident at 34. Clara Marie Sissy Ernest Ray Peggy June Patsy Eileen. Death in 1984 devastated her. She wrote "Dear Uncle Sam" about losing a brother to war, and later said losing Jack was the deepest pain of her life. She was a devoted mother, often bringing her children on tour and writing songs about them. The Darkest Day is about the death of her father. Somebody Somewhere Don't Know What He's Missing Tonight was inspired by missing her kids on the road. Her daughters, Patsy and Peggy, became singers. Her grandson, Trevor, son of Sissy, performs as Trevor Lee, keeping the family legacy alive. The health struggles a warrior to the end. Even in her later years, Loretta faced health challenges with resilience. In 2013, she suffered a stroke that left her temporarily unable to speak or sing. In 2017, she fell and broke her hip, requiring surgery. In 2018, she was treated for pneumonia, yet she returned to the stage when possible. In 2018, she performed at her birthday concert in Nashville, singing a few lines of "Coal Miner's Daughter" from a chair, her voice weaker, but still defiant. She didn't make a big farewell. She didn't need to. Her music was her goodbye. The final recordings. Facing mortality with dignity even in her final years, Loretta kept creating. Wouldn't It Be Great 2018, an album of re-recorded classics and new songs, reflecting on love, loss, and faith. Still Woman Enough 2021, released when she was 89. This album featured new versions of her hits and collaborations with younger artists like Mickey Guyton and Reba McEntire. The title track, "I'm Still Woman Enough to Take Your Man," was a defiant statement of self, proving she hadn't lost her fire. She didn't make music to be remembered, she made it because she had to, and that's the mark of a true artist. The legacy. Why Loretta Lynn will never fade: because truth is timeless, because women's stories matter, because a voice that sings from the heart teaches us how to live. Loretta Lynn endured because she refused to be silenced. She didn't conform, she didn't apologize, she didn't stop. She sang about the cost of love, the weight of motherhood, beauty of independence, the dignity of survival, and in doing so, She gave voice to millions who felt invisible. The last word. The woman who never left. Loretta Lynn died on October 4, 2022, but she didn't disappear. She lives in the sparkle of a rhinestone gown on stage, the honesty of a Miranda Lambert ballad. The defiance of a young artist writing her own songs, the woman who plays You Ain't Woman Enough. After a breakup, she wasn't a saint, she was a sinner, and that's why we love her. So, here's to Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter who became a queen, the woman who sang the truth, the legend who never ever gave in. And as long as there is a guitar, a stage, or a heart that refuses to be broken, Loretta Lynn will still be singing. The songwriter's soul, anatomy of a master craftsman. Loretta Lynn wasn't just a performer. She was one of the greatest songwriters in American music history, male or female. Her lyrics combined poetic simplicity with raw emotional honesty, capturing the inner lives of working-class women in a way no one had before. What set her apart was her economy of language. She didn't need metaphors or flowery phrases. She told stories with simple, direct lines that cut to the heart. Take Fist City, 1968, a warning to another woman tempted to steal her husband. If you think I'm gonna let you and him have your fun, then you better think again, gal, 'cause I'll grab you by the hair and I'll lift you off the ground. It's not a threat. It's a declaration of self-respect delivered with humor, fire, and a wink. Or One's on the way. 1971. I'm having my baby. He's having his fun. He's gone to the bar with the boys. A biting satire of motherhood and marital neglect. Written while she was pregnant with her sixth child. Or Dear Uncle Sam. 1966. You took my brother. You took my husband too. Now you're after my baby and I don't know what to do. A rare anti-war song from a woman's perspective. Decades before such themes became common. Lynn didn't write to shock. She wrote to bear witness. And in doing so, she gave voice to millions who had never been heard. The Bakersfield and Nashville sounds. Loretta's musical identity. While Loretta Lynn recorded in Nashville, her sound was shaped by the Bakersfield influence, raw, guitar-driven and honky-tonk rooted rather than the polished Nashville sound of strings and background choirs. She worked with Owen Bradley, the same producer who shaped Patsy Cline's career, but insisted on keeping her music authentic. Prominent pedal steel guitar, twangy Telecaster riffs, minimal orchestration, live band recordings. Her sound was unapologetically country, no pop crossover, no smoothing of edges. This gave her music a timeless quality. Even decades later, her songs sound fresh, not dated. She once said, "I don't want my music to sound like it's from a factory. I want it to sound like it's from my heart." That heart-centered approach that became a model for future generations of traditionalists and Americana artists. The voice that broke the mold. Loretta Lynn's voice was not classically beautiful. It wasn't smooth or polished, but it was authentic, a voice that sounded like it had lived. It had several defining qualities. Clarity, every word was enunciated, never mumbled. Tone, bright, slightly nasal, with a Kentucky drawl that never faded. Control, she could shift from a whisper to a shout with precision. Emotional range from sorrow to defiance, tenderness to anger. Listen to The Other Woman. 1963. Her voice trembles slightly on She's the Other Woman. I'm the wife, not from weakness, but from empathy. She doesn't demonize the other woman. She pities her. Or Coal Miner's Daughter. She delivers the title line with pride, not shame. She owns her roots. Lynn didn't need vocal gymnastics. She didn't need high notes. She sang with truth, and that was enough. The Outlaw Connection. Loretta and the Outlaw Movement. Though Loretta Lynn wasn't part of the official outlaw country movement of the 1970s led by Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Jessie Coulter, she was its spiritual sister. She shared their values, creative control. She wrote her own songs and fought for her artistic vision, authenticity, no gimmicks, no pretense. Defiance of industry norms, gender roles, and censorship. She was friends with Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, and her music influenced them as much as theirs influenced her. In fact, Waylon once said Loretta was the first outlaw. She just didn't wear black. Her independence paved the way for the Outlaws' rebellion against Nashville's control. The influence on modern country and Americana. Loretta Lynn's influence extends far beyond her own era. Artists across genres have cited her as a primary influence. Dolly Parton called her the most real person I ever met. Reba McEntire covered You Ain't Woman Enough and called Loretta the blueprint. Miranda Lambert named her band the Pistol Annies in tribute to Loretta's nickname, the female Elvis. Casey Musgraves covered You're Looking at Country and praised her lyrical courage. Maren Morris, Ashley McBryde, and Tanya Tucker all cite her as a model of independence and honesty. Even pop and rock artists admire her. Jack White produced her 2004 comeback album Van Leer Rose, calling her the most authentic artist I've ever worked with. Elvis Costello collaborated with her and praised her storytelling. Brandi Carlile has called her the mother of modern country feminism. Lynn proved that country music could be both art and activism. The political paradox, conservative roots, progressive voice. Loretta Lynn was often seen as a conservative figure, a woman from rural Kentucky who valued family, faith, and tradition. But her music was radically progressive. She sang about birth control, the pill when it was taboo. She defended divorced women, rated X. She criticized war, Dear Uncle Sam. She celebrated female autonomy, Don't Come Home, Adrian. She didn't see these as political acts. She saw them as truth-telling. In interviews, she said, I'm not trying to start a revolution. I'm just singing about what I see. And what she saw was a world where women were judged, silenced, and overlooked, so she sang louder. The final albums, reflections on mortality even in her final years. Loretta kept creating. Full Circle 2016, a return to her roots, with gospel, songs, family stories, and Appalachian ballads. Wouldn't It Be Great 2018, a mix of re-recorded classics and new material, reflecting on love, loss, and faith. Still Woman Enough 2021, released at age 89. This album was a defiant statement of self-worth, featuring duets with Reba McEntire and Mickey Guyton. The title track, I'm Still Woman Enough to Take Your Man, was a final reminder. She hadn't lost her fire. She didn't make music to be remembered. She made it because she had to, and in doing so, she became immortal. The legacy. Why Loretta Lynn endures: because truth is timeless, because the working woman still exists, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Lynn mattered because she spoke for the voiceless, the housewife, the mother, the ex-wife, the small-town dreamer. She didn't glorify poverty. She didn't romanticize marriage. She just told the truth. Her music wasn't escapism, it was connection, and in a world of curated images and manufactured stars, that's revolutionary. The final reflection. The woman who sang the truth. Loretta Lynn died on October 4, 2022, at the age of 90. But her voice, that will never die. It lives in the twang of a pedal steel on a back porch, the silence before the final note of coal miner's daughter, the tears of a fan hearing the other woman for the first time, the strength of a mother who sings her songs while cooking dinner. She wasn't a saint, she was a sinner, and that's why we love her. So here's to Loretta Lynn, coal miner's daughter, the queen of country, the woman who sang the truth and lived to tell it. And as long as there is a guitar, a road, or a heart that refuses to break, Loretta Lynn will still be singing. The studio at Sanctuary. Loretta's approach to recording. Loretta Lynn didn't treat the recording studio as a place of perfection. She saw it as a sanctuary for truth, a space where emotion mattered more than polish. Unlike the meticulously layered productions coming out of Nashville in the 1960s and 70s, Loretta favored live in-the-moment performances. She recorded with her band playing together in real time, capturing the energy of a live show. She rarely used overdubs. She avoided excessive reverb. She didn't demand multiple takes. If the first take had soul, it was the final take. This philosophy was rooted in her Appalachian roots, where music was made for dancing, not dissecting. The goal wasn't technical flawlessness. It was emotional authenticity. Producer Owen Bradley, who worked with Loretta for decades, once said, Loretta didn't want to make records, she wanted to make statements. This approach gave her music a raw, immediate quality. You could hear the breath in her voice, the twang of the steel guitar, the subtle swing of the rhythm section. There was no artifice, just sound and soul. Even in her later years, when technology advanced, Loretta resisted digital production. She preferred analog tape, warm mics, and natural acoustics. She believed that mistakes could be beautiful. Cracked note, a slight delay, a breath between lines, because they proved the song was alive. The unheard archives, lost recordings and private moments beyond her official discography. A rich archive of unreleased recordings, demos, and private sessions reveals the depth of Loretta's artistry. These include radio station appearances, live performances from WSMK, WKH, and other regional stations, where Loretta played stripped-down sets with just guitar and harmonica. Home recordings, tapes of Loretta rehearsing songs with her children, playing old folk tunes, or singing gospel hymns with her sister Peggy Sue. Outtakes, alternate versions of hits like Don't Come Home, Adrian, and You Ain't Woman Enough, showing how she refined phrasing and timing. Family storytelling sessions, recordings of Loretta recounting stories from her childhood, later used as inspiration for songs. One of the most poignant is a private recording of Loretta singing Coal Miner's Daughter alone in her kitchen, her voice quiet, reflective, almost prayerful. These recordings don't diminish her legacy, they deepen it. They show a woman who lived for music, not for fame, but for expression. The influence on women in country music revisited. Though best known for her own songs, Loretta Lynn had a profound impact on female country artists beyond her contemporaries. She paved the way for the Dixie Chicks, who cited her as a model for speaking out on politics and personal truth. Carrie Underwood, who has said, Loretta taught me that a woman can be strong without being loud. Mickey Guyton, the first black woman nominated for Best Country Solo Performance at the Grammys, who performed with Loretta on Still Woman Enough. Tanya Tucker, a fellow trailblazer who called Loretta the original rebel with a pen, didn't just sing about women. She elevated them, showing that a woman could be a mother and a star, a wife and an independent artist. Tradition or revolutionary. She didn't preach feminism. She lived it. The gospel heart, faith and redemption in her music, though not overtly religious. Loretta Lynn had a deep spiritual undercurrent in her music rooted in the Baptist hymns of her youth and the trials of life. She recorded several gospel albums including Hymns 1965, a collection of traditional hymns like Amazing Grace and I'll Fly Away, God Bless America Again 1972, a patriotic and spiritual album reflecting her faith in country and Creator. Full Circle 2016 includes Everybody Wants to Go to Heaven, a song about grace and humility. But her faith wasn't confined to gospel records. It infused her secular work, The Other Woman, a meditation on sin, judgment, and pity, Dear Uncle Sam, a cry for peace and mercy, One's on the Way, a woman praying for strength in the chaos of motherhood. Lynn didn't preach. She questioned, she doubted, she struggled, but she never stopped believing in redemption. She once said, I don't know if I'm saved, but I know I've been forgiven. That tension between sin and grace is at the heart of her music. The cultural symbol Loretta as an American archetype. Loretta as an American archetype. Loretta Lynn became more than a singer. She became a cultural symbol and archetype of the American experience. She embodied the coal miner's daughter born into poverty, shaped by hardship, the teen bride, married young, stayed loyal, the working mother, balancing family and career. The artist who turned pain into poetry, the survivor of loss, illness, and industry resistance. Her imagery in stone gown, Kentucky drawl, unflinching stare appears on t-shirts, murals, and tattoos, posters in dive bars and music hall statues and museum exhibits. The Loretta Lynn Ranch in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, is a pilgrimage site for fans. It includes her home, a museum, and an annual music festival. Visitors often leave notes, You sang for me when no one else did. She didn't just represent a genre, she represented a way of life. Asterisk, the voice that crossed genres. Loretta Lynn's appeal extends far beyond country music. Her songs have been covered by pop artists Linda Ronstadt, Linda Davis, rock bands, The Grateful Dead, The Byrds, soul singers, Aretha Franklin, Solomon Burgundy, artists, Necco Case, Lucinda Williams, jazz musicians, Willie Nelson. On a Horse Called Music, You Ain't Woman Enough alone has been recorded in over 200 versions, in languages including Spanish, German, and Japanese. Her music has been used in films like Coal Miner's Daughter, Walk the Line, and Wild Rose, as well as in TV shows from The Sopranos to Yellowstone. She didn't just cross over, she transcended the myth and the man, separating legend from truth. Like all legends, Loretta Lynn has been romanticized. She is often portrayed as a conservative icon or a hardened outlaw, but the truth is more complex. Yes, she sang about family and tradition. Yes, she stayed with a flawed husband. Yes, she valued faith, but she was also compassionate. She advocated for women's health and reproductive rights. Curious, she studied music, history, and storytelling. Funny. Friends described her as witty and full of life. Regretful, she openly spoke of her mistakes. She wasn't a caricature. She was a woman flawed, brilliant, and deeply human. And that's what made her voice so powerful. The final reflection. Why she still matters. Because sorrow is universal. Because motherhood is sacred. Because a voice that sings the truth will never age. Loretta Lynn mattered because she refused to pretend. She didn't hide her past. She didn't sugarcoat life. She sang it loud, clear, and beautiful. And in doing so, she gave voice to millions who felt invisible. The last word. The woman who never left. Loretta Lynn died on October 4, 2022, but she never really left. She lives in the sparkle of a rhinestone on a stage, the silence before the final note of Coal Miner's Daughter, the tears of a fan hearing The Pill for the first time, the strength of a working mother who sings her songs on the way to the job site. She was not just a singer, she was a witness to love, to loss, to survival. And as long as there is a heart that breaks, a woman who works with her hands, or a song that needs to be sung, Loretta Lynn will still be there. Not in flesh, not in time, but in sound. And that is immortality.